A new viral TikTok trend has been spreading. They call it the silent depression. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Imagine a depression, but you can't see it, you can't talk about it. It's there, but nobody wants to say the truth. And in today's video, I'm going to break down what that is all about. I'm going to explain why it's happening. And then, of course, I'm going to give you the details specifically with that and how that affects you, your family, your decisions, and of course, what you'll experience in 2024. This is going to get crazy and wild. And I have been accurate all along, showing you each step of the cycle because I've been studying it for so many years. It seems much more predictable than what the others have been telling people, and that's a lot of misinformation out there. So I want to bring you the truth. So let's keep an eye on that today. As always, those who are subscribed to the channel will be able to get the most accurate information. How I was able to determine each point of this, almost as if, we've seen it before. Look, Jerome Powell's pivot is a pretty big gamble. Who said this? Bill Dudley. This guy, he was the head of the Fed of New York for years and years. So this guy saying that, it's interesting, right? Because what he's suggesting is that the Fed has bet its reputation on a soft landing. Here's hoping it works out. And that's the whole thing. Like, is inflation actually going to come down? Well, I've said it before. If we're going to measure inflation as CPI, we're going to measure that with core PCE. These things are, what they measure in. But you and I, what do we measure in? We measure that in food, in our energy, in our housing, rent. That's how we do it. That's real. When we go to the gas pump, when we're filling it up, and my goodness, those numbers are racking up and the tank's not filling up, that's the way we measure real stuff. And certainly what I have seen has been that prices of things, of stuff, whatever it is, tend to go up. And generally, even when inflation numbers come down, prices don't really come down. At the same time, we are seeing those goods, whether it's, your cereal, whether it's, who knows what, being shrinkflated. Shrinkflation, it's a real thing. Where the toilet paper used to be a square, now they cut off the two ends, you get a rectangle, okay? Soon it's going to be a triangle. It's going to be odd trying to use that. Look, let's be honest here. The companies do this to save. They want to increase their profitability. And I know they're being squeezed on the margins. How do I know this? I'm experiencing it myself. In my business, I got physical products. You want to make products? That takes physical labor. Those individuals, they want more money. Well, what about the storage, the warehouse capacity? Costs more money to operate now. So you have increased costs there. You got shipping. Oh, guess what? Yeah, maybe it's come down from its peak, but it's still more expensive than it was before. One thing after another. Okay, this is the way it goes. And so, yes, it's there, but let's be honest. They're taking advantage of it. Okay, very clearly. Okay, so we have that. Okay, let's break that down. We've got the determination of the central bank. They're going to cut interest rates. It's coming. Well, in this case, Fed official says rate cuts could be needed next year to prevent over tightening. Why did she say that? Well, this is the way it works. And Jerome Powell said this at the most recent conference. Okay, I watched it. I saw it with my own eyes. And this is, he's not lying about it, but this is the way it works. If you're now going through and you're increasing interest rates, you're bringing that up, and inflation's coming down as they measure it, inflation's coming down, well, it's going towards 2%. They're trying to get to 2. They're not trying to go below 2. And so if they get to, let's just pick a number, 3%, maybe it's 2.8, maybe it's 2.5. I don't know what the number they're looking for. They can say, okay, let's cut once now. Okay, and then we'll wait a month and let's cut now, because that's going to kind of slow the pace of the inflation. And, they don't want it to go too low, and it will kind of soft landing, right? That's what they're trying to achieve as they slowly but surely cut. Because when they cut, it doesn't have a direct impact. It's not like as if they're doing that and it's like dynamite exploding. It's not working like that, okay? It's by 1,000 cuts. So they have to strategically, surgically react. That's true. But, there's anyone's guess as to how exactly that's going to affect the markets and the economy, other than the fact that it's more about forward guidance or the words they're using. I think that has more of an impact, more so than anything else, because that comes way ahead of the actual actions that they take. But the markets, the bond market specifically, well, they're being very clear as to what they believe is going on, and this is just showing us the percentage of the 10 yield curves inverted, basically just showing us that the bond market, you have yield curve inversions. This signals a recession, and my goodness, it's at a record high, showing us there should be no surprise here that many indicators are showing a recession. But understand this, my whole talk about this is that if we're going towards more money printing, because I believe we do, and more inflation, not necessarily CPI or core PCE inflation, real inflation, well then a recession, believe it or not, would bring that upon even faster. It would bring it even worse. Why? Because we go into a recession, the Fed, the government, they're looking for an excuse to start pumping. Many people say, no, they're not. No, they're not. They're trying to prevent runaway inflation. That's what they tell you in the media. That's the mainstream media view. They want to create inflation the most that they can possibly get, but get away with it. You see, because if they start to bring interest rates down to zero right now and just start printing trillions of dollars, you'll point the finger at them. And you'll say, whoa, wait a second, you shouldn't be doing that. And the public would start to rise up, the public would get angry. But if they wait for a certain event to happen and then they went crazy on it, well, then they can get to their goal. Their goal, of course, is to help their friends out. What do their friends want? Their friends want more inflation. Their friends want the potential for short periods of deflation. They come in, they buy up, but then eventually everything gets priced higher and higher. And we have a chasm in between the rich and the poor. And remember, there's only two groups, the rich and the poor. Everybody middle class, you're getting pushed down. Very few will climb to the top. Very few. Very few. All right, look at this. Expect 6 rate cuts starting March 2023. This is what one analyst said. Some think it's going to be more like 3. Okay, that's what the Fed's SEP, what they call the SEP, that's just a dot plot. It's like, where do you think? Imagine they asked all of the members of the Fed, okay, where do you think the rates will be next year? On that, they've said 3, okay, but of course, no actions have been taken. Bank of England warns more pain for renters as landlords exit. So the landlords, they cannot deal with this right now, higher interest rates. And so what's going to happen here? I think it's going to be more and more corporate buyers that come in. At least in the United States, we will see that for sure. And that means, guess what? They don't care. They really don't care. So they're going to push up the prices as much as they humanly possibly can. Living standards will kept, like, what's the bare minimum? Okay, you want to get through to somebody, you can't get through to somebody. It's a corporation. Bank of Canada's Macklem, that's the equivalent of Jerome Powell, expects inflation to be close to 2% target by late 2024. So what does that tell you? Interest rate cuts coming sooner than that. So just like I just said, they've got to cut before they get to 2%. Same thing. If he's saying 2% by the end of 2024, they got to start cutting earlier before that to get it down to 2% before 2024. You see what I'm saying here? So expect it sooner rather than later. Let me stop. Let me pause for a moment here. Your circumstances. Are you the one that manages your money in your family? Well, if that's the case, you got to start taking action as it relates to this. They are saying we're going to cut interest rates soon. So what do you think is going to happen? That's why the market is already starting to go wild, saying, I think I get it. I think I see what's going on here. All right? Look, do you appreciate this information? If you do, hit that thumbs up button. Do you have a friend or family, coworker, somebody that you can share this video with? Hit that share button right now. Send it off to somebody. I'll wait. No worries. I'll wait right here. Okay, good? Done? All right, let's continue. Canada's debt service costs hit a record high on interest rate hikes. That shouldn't surprise anybody, but here we are today. seeing that. That's why they are begging and pleading for interest rates to decline. Okay, we'll see if that actually happens and when it happens and how low can they go. They may not be able to go all the way down to zero if inflation starts to go skyrocketing higher. We're going to follow that very closely here on this channel, of course. And that's the TikTok depression, okay? Is the US in a silent depression? Economists weigh on the viral TikTok theory. One of TikTok's latest trends, coined the silent depression, aims to explain why Americans feel so bad about their own financial standing even when the country is in good shape. Well, it depends who you ask, I guess. Key expenses such as housing, transportation, and food account for an increasing share of the average take-home pay. There's no question about that. I know quite a few people that are making six figures that are dealing with some pain. And so you see that here, looking at it, take-home pay is being high, but let's be honest, it's shrinking in real terms. Any notion from TikTok that life was better in 1923 than it is now is divorced from reality. Look, we do have many better things than 100 years ago. There's no question about that. And what I want to be clear about is it depends on what you're looking at here. So we could say that there's better access to healthcare if you want to do that. You have your phones, you have your internet, you got all these different things in our life. But most of that is an empty void, really. Okay, it's all garbage, TV and everything else. But what I see is that the things that people have to deal with, whether it's 1923 or whatever, the things that people have to deal with right now, they're not prepared for it. They're not prepared for this. And we're moving into this time, whether it's depression or recession, hard times, higher inflation, whatever the case may be. We have a period in which it's difficult. And I talk a lot about this with my Finance Friday group, because I can be more real. I don't have to worry about algorithms, all that stuff. But let me just tell you right now, times are likely to get more difficult in the coming months and years. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about a stock market crash, all that stuff. I'm talking about real economy. And we know that prices don't decline once they go up. And so if you're struggling today, what do you think is going to happen next year? We've got to get our act together. Now, what I was doing many years ago was that I had 3 jobs/businesses running at once. I was burning the midnight oil. I was doing 7 days a week, still doing 7 days a week now, but in a different circumstance. Okay. I was really pushing it to the limits. And, when you're young, you could do these things, you have the energy. And what I was doing was taking that money and I was investing it. Okay. And I was doing that because I knew that there's going to be a moment in time in which it's going to be much more difficult. So I have the energy now. I'm going to make use of it. So if you got those people in your life, or you're one of those people that's, 30 and under, you got to be doing what you can now. You got to be doing what you can. Yes, you can enjoy some of that. There's no question about that. You want to go on vacation, you want to have some experience, certainly, but don't burn your money. Don't do the buy now, pay later. Don't get things on credit cards and then carry a balance. Please don't do that. If you need to reach out to me, if you got a kid that's spending too much money and so on and so forth, get them to reach out to me. Okay? We can do one. I have my Finance Fridays, and then I have my Sunday session, which is like helping people to build a business, online business. That's separate stuff. We can also do one-on-one stuff. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I just think that people are not prepared. They're going to get slaughtered. They're going to get slaughtered. Okay. And I say this to you, to be honest with you. General Mills echoes FedEx with a warning about weaker demand. So you can't even buy Cheerios anymore, people. Cheerios cost too much now. It's being shrinkflated away, and you can't afford it. That's crazy to think about. It hurts to talk about that. This is the business activity just showing you overall there's been this weakness overall in businesses, and they're feeling the effects of inflation. Businesses are too, believe it or not. Yeah, their profits might be up in here or there, but their general activity has been down. They have too much inventory. We know the drill. We know what's happening here. Okay. So that's the overall circumstance. Call it a silent depression, whatever. People aren't prepared. That's what it comes down to. That's the circumstance that we have going on today. If you want to be able to get the best, the latest and greatest information that I just can't give on here, well, that's all in my Money GPS Finance Live. You can get the details at the link in the description below. At that link, it explains everything you need to know. On the Friday session, I do financial stuff and everything. And then the Sunday session is completely separate from that. I talk about business, building a business online, especially those people who are like they're young, they're very in tune with how to do stuff online. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to be learning about this right now. But it doesn't matter what age you're at. Get into it. Learn it. It's a skill we have to be able to operate from anywhere. Why? Because the area you're living in today may be not viable, may not be a place you want to be. And so you got to walk, or maybe you got to run, and you want to have that mobility. And of course, an online business will do that. Links in the description at the top there. You can reach out to me if you're interested. And as always, make sure you give this video a like, because doing so not only supports me, but it notifies the algorithm. This is good stuff. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being here today. And of course, as always, I'll see you here tomorrow. Take care.